Reconciling the 365th day. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Genesis 1:2. To recap from our previous video, 4 keys to finding day 1 of our Creator's calendar. The first day of the year is always the 4th day of the week after the sun crosses the equator on the 364th day. Enoch 72:32. On that day, the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its day, 364. The beginning of the year always begins in Jerusalem, the day after the sun crosses over the equator. Deuteronomy 11:12. A land which Yahuwah thy Elohim careth for, the eyes of Yahuwah thy Elohim are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. Enoch 72:4-6. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns due the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way, he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the 4th, those 6 portals in the east. The first day of the year begins in Jerusalem as the sun begins to rise in the east. Enoch 77:1. And the first quarter is called the east because it is first. As the sun makes its circuit around the earth, the rest of the world will enjoy their first day of the year after Jerusalem. Those living in the northern quarter and in the provinces east of Jerusalem will enjoy their first of the year last. So here we see Jerusalem is located here, and as the sun makes its way around, we're looking at Father's view of the earth down below. We are watching the sun begin its rising in Jerusalem. And as the sun goes all the way around, everybody gets to enjoy this first day of the new year. Why is it necessary for the first day of the year to be a Sabbath? Before we answer that, let's address the number of days in Yah's calendar and the number of days in the solar year. We all know that there are 365.242 days in the year, and Yah's calendar has only 364, according to both Enoch and Jubilees. Jubilees 6:32. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. And these will constitute a complete year, and they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts. For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. Enoch 82:6. For they belong to the reckoning of the year and are truly recorded thereon forever, one in the first portal, and one in the third, and one in the fourth, and one in the sixth, and the year is completed in 364 days. Before Yah created the first day, there was darkness, and the earth was without form and void. This is the 365th day, which is found between the 52nd Shabbat and before the first day of creation in the last week of the calendar year. This unreckoned day is found in the second verse of Genesis, Genesis 1:2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. To think about it, it is like Yahuwah walking into a dark room, a blank canvas, after he rises from his previous day of rest. This day is darkness before Elohim turns on the light for the first day of creation, and is why this day of darkness has its own verse. The new day always begins with light. Elohim gave us scripture on how to reconcile this extra day. Genesis 5:23-24. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with Elohim, and he was not, for Elohim took him. Jubilees in 1 Enoch tells us that Yah's calendar contains 364 counted days, and we know that the solar year contains 365.242 days. In Genesis, Yahuwah tells the reader that all the days of Enoch were 365, and he took him away. The day still exists, but out of time. It is acknowledged, but it is never numbered within the calendar. With the understanding that there is another day in the first week of the new year, Yahuwah made the first day of the year, the fourth day, a Sabbath rest. It is not the seventh day, Shabbat, which is 3 days later. So here on the Gregorian, which is March 16th, 2025, this is the last Shabbat of the year. Genesis 1:2 that is the day of the darkness that is not counted within the year. And this is why it is in gray, and this is represented by Genesis 1:2. It does not have a number. It is not counted. The first day of the year is a Sabbath rest. According to the temple scroll, on the first day of the first month falls the beginning of months. For you, it is the beginning of the months of the year. You are to do no work. You shall offer a he-goat for a sin offering, which must be offered separately from the other sacrifices to atone for you. In addition, you are to sacrifice 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 unblemished yearling lambs, and a he-goat as a sin offering, not including the regular burnt offering of the first day of the month, together with the grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of choice flour mixed with 1/2 of a hin of oil, and wine for a drink offering, 1/2 of a hin for a bowl, and 2/10 of an ephah of choice flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil 1/3 of a hin, and wine for a drink offering, 1/3 of a hin for the 1 ram, and for the lambs and he-goat 1/10 of an ephah of choice flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil 1/4 of a hin, and wine for a drink offering, 1/4 of a hin for the 1 ram, for the 7 lambs, and for the he-goat. Then in Jubilees 7:1-5, and in the 7th week, in the first year thereof, in this Jubilee, Noah planted vines on the mountain on which the ark had rested, named Lubar, one of the Ararat mountains. And they produced fruit in the 4th year, and he guarded their fruit and gathered it in this year in the 7th month. And he made wine therefrom and put it into a vessel and kept it until the 5th year, until the first day on the new month of the first month. And he celebrated with joy the day of this feast, and he made a burnt sacrifice unto Yahuwah, 1 young ox and 1 ram, and 7 sheep, each a year old, and a kid of the goats, that he might make atonement thereby for himself and his sons. And he prepared the kid first, and placed some of its blood on the flesh that was on the altar which he had made. And all the fat he laid on the altar where he made the burnt sacrifice, and the ox and the ram and the sheep, and he laid all their flesh upon the altar. And he placed all their offerings mingled with oil upon it. And afterwards he sprinkled wine on the fire which he had previously made on the altar, and he placed incense on the altar and caused a sweet savor to ascend. Note the same animals, oil, and wine offered on this day. Why is this uncounted day placed after the Shabbat instead of after the 364th day? When looking at the first week of creation, the day of dark void without form did not occur after the 3rd day of creation. Rather, this null day, as we call it, happened between his Shabbat and the creation week. The 7 days of creation are not interrupted with a day of darkness, and so it is placed where it belongs, between the last Shabbat and the first day of creation. Now back to the question as to why the first day of the year is a Shabbat. Father obeys his own laws. Knowing that there was an extra day between the Shabbats in the first week, he made the 4th day a day of rest, so there can be no argument from anyone that had to work more than 6 days between the Sabbaths. The Zadok priests knew this, and the day of rest was recorded in their temple scroll according to page 597 of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Noah also honored this day by his offerings of lambs, an ox, a goat, and a bull with wine and oil in the book of Jubilees. If you have any questions on the presentation of how the 365th day is reconciled on the calendar, please comment below. And thank you all for watching.